friends, we will continue with tutorial number 5 as a sequence to tutorial number 4, and this happens to be the last tutorial in the set of tutorials that is meant to explain or meant to narrate the very fundamental aspects of design and analysis of algorithms, which forms the founding stones for analysis of the algorithms. That means the next tutorial session will be on analysis of algorithms. Okay, today we will in this tutorial we will go through some of the data structures that are used in algorithmics when we develop an algorithm, and a lot of fundamentals about these data structures, and the fundamentals which we ought to know as a serious student, as a serious learner of design and analysis of algorithms. Data structures are organization of data. A data structure is an organization of data, organization of related data. For an example, there can be a structure of a book structure, teacher structure, and various student structure. Okay, in these structures only related data is to be stored, organized in a methodical way. So whenever you deal with a data structure, you will be dealing with a host of variables which are of different nature. Okay, therefore data structures will offer some kind of a compactness for an algorithm. As I told in the previous tutorial, the data structures and algorithms constitute programs. Okay, it was a famous book, okay, written years ago, and that is the place of sanctity given to data structures in algorithmic circles. Data structures can be divided into two types. It could be linear data structure and non-linear data structure. The linearity or non-linearity comes from the fact, the way in which we access the elements present in the data structure. Okay, as an example, in a linear data structure, we will go in a sequential fashion, one after the other. Okay, visiting one element after the other sequentially, one by one, in a linear fashion. Okay, that means if you want to visit an rth element, you will have crossed r minus 1 element, whether you like it or not. Okay, now the examples for linear data structures happens to be arrays, singly linked lists, doubly linked lists, stacks and queues and priority queues. Stacks and queues and priority queues happens to be special kind of linear data structures which have found lot of applications in programming circles and in application development circles. And non-linear data structure, in a non-linear data structures, the elements are accessed not linearly, however they will be accessed in a tortuous way, in a zigzag way. Okay, for example, in a graph, in order to access a particular node, you have to take left turn from the starting node, then you have to go for a right turn, something like this. In a tree, you may have to visit the left subtree, right subtree, left subtree, something like this. So in order to visit a particular element, in order to access a particular node, we have to move in a non-linear fashion. So we will discuss about arrays as the preliminary or very elementary data structure. It is called as an elementary data structure. Okay, in arrays, elements are accessed in a linear fashion. Okay, and elements are indexed. We know, I think it may be a recall to our memory. We have studied arrays elsewhere, maybe while programming in our lower semesters or in our lower classes. Anyway, A5 and A100 will represent the 5th element and 100th element in an array. Okay, and every element, one of the beauty of the arrays is every element in an array can be accessed in a constant amount of time. Let us assume that there are 10,000 elements in an array, and if you say A999, you will be visiting 999th element, and as well you can say A1000 or 10,000. The time consumed to access both the elements remain the same. Okay, arrays can take the flavor of a string, binary string, bit strings. Okay, anything, and a characters can be stuffed in an array, then it will become a string, and binary strings. Okay, bit vectors. Okay, it is binary strings which will be simply transferred in a network, computer network. Okay, the messages will be converted into bit strings, and it is bit strings. It is a bit string flow orientation as far as. Okay, so bit strings are used, and they are all different forms of arrays. There are many applications of arrays. okay, that we will discuss whenever we take on to the algorithms which will excessively use arrays. But there is a simple question remains as to when an algorithmist thinks of using an array. When exactly an algorithmist thinks to use an array? For this, the answer is not very easy. Anyway, it can be said whenever huge amount of data of similar type is to be repeatedly processed in an algorithm or in a program, arrays are a must. I repeat, whenever huge amount of data, huge number of data of similar type is to be processed repeatedly in an algorithm or in a program, arrays are a must. So arrays will provide some kind of a linearity, some kind of a, okay, it will come very handy, and the arrays will also provide some kind of a temporary permanence for the data. Okay, till you execute the program, till you execute the algorithm, it will be there for you. Okay, the data will be stored in a compact location called array, right? Linked lists, there are two kinds of linked lists. Okay, doubly linked lists and singly linked lists. A linked list will have nodes connected. Okay, this node will be in a memory and this node will be in some other memory. Wherever there is a place, okay, it can be allocated by dynamic memory allocation. And this is the advantage of linked lists apart from arrays. Arrays will come with a static memory allocation. There may be wastage of memory, or at points we may reserve amount of memory which may exceed when we take on to programming or when we take on to executing an algorithm. In such a case, there could be a flutter. Okay, the program may not work. Okay, if you try to fill in, number of elements which are much more than which has already been declared, then it's going to give a trouble. But here, in case of a linked list, we can just create dynamically any node of a linked list whenever it is demanded. Anyway, in the memory they will be at farther off places. They will be wherever there is a location, wherever there is a place, a node will be created, and it will be connected by the pointers. Okay, a singly linked list will offer one kind of movement from here till here. Okay, there with the help of the header node. Okay, and as far as doubly linked list is concerned, there is a to and fro motion that is possible. Okay, we can traverse this doubly linked list back and forth. One advantage of linked list has been traversing. Anyway, as a comparison to arrays, okay, the time taken to access any of the nodes in a linked list, whether it is doubly linked list or singly linked list, it takes variable time. For example, the first node will take no time at all, while as the nodes are farther away from the header node, okay, more will be the time consumed in order to access. This forms a very important difference between a linked list and an array. Right. Stacks have found huge application. It is accessed from the top. It is a special kind of a linear data structure. It has a LIFO philosophy, last in first out philosophy. They vary. An example in our mundane life is okay, the arrangement of plates by a waiter in a restaurant. Okay, the plate which is at the top will go first. Okay, the plate which has come first will be there waiting in the heap of that as a last fellow in the heap of plates. There are several applications of stacks: expression evaluation. Certain graph algorithms like depth first search implements a stack. It has to be implemented with stack. Nested function calling in a program and returning, okay, calling the function and returning the values by the functions has to happen with the help of a stack. Operating system will press a stack into service. Undo mechanism in text editors should happen with a stack. OS implements operating system implements recursion through stacks. Okay, any recursive program or any recursive algorithm should make use of stack, otherwise there is no other go. Okay, LIFO, last in first out scheduling policy of CPU. There are scheduling policy of CPU implement stacks. Interrupt handling by processor is an application of a stack, and infix to postfix conversion, okay, happens at the behest of stack with the help of a stack. Okay, queues. Elements are deleted from one end, added from the rear end, added from one end, okay, and deleted from other end. It is based on FIFO philosophy, first in, first out philosophy. Priority queues are the special type of queues which will have ordered elements. Okay, priority queues will have ordered elements, maybe array in ascending order, array in descending order. Okay, applications of queue, there are like stacks, queues will also come with heavy applications in algorithmic circles and programming circles, in application circles. It is CPU task scheduling. Certain graph algorithms make use of queue. BFS, breadth first search algorithm, which is a traversing algorithm, graph traversing algorithm, makes use of a queue. Serving requests on single shared resource like printer, call center phone systems, they are mounted on a queue. Mouse movements and clicks in a typical application execution. Video games and web servers, networks to control congestion makes use of queues. Okay, in a router of a network, actually the packets will be stored, will be staying in the queue. There will be queues in front of output ports of a router. Okay, graphs. This is the first example of a nonlinear data structure. Graph is actually a binary relation between any two nodes selected at random and whether they are connected or not. If they are connected, if there is a direct connection, the value is 1, the truth is 1, otherwise the truth is 0. Therefore, technically or scientifically, graphs are defined as binary relationship between any two nodes selected at random and whether it is connected or not, they are connected or not. And customarily, a graph is represented as set of sets, out of which one of the sets is vertex set, other set is the edge set. Okay, there are categories in graph. It could be undirected graph like this, or it could be directed graph like this. Directed graphs are modeled whenever there is a situation of flow or vehicular movement or whatever, the directionality of movement of maybe of commodities, of vehicular traffic or whatever is predicated. And undirected graph is used wherever such a directionality is not at all important, like a transportation network, where you can start from this city, you come to this city, once again go back like this. Okay, there is a unhindered movement of commodities or flow or whatever. So direction, whether a problem is to be framed in the form of a undirected graph or a directed graph is literally problem specific. Okay, and there is another category of graphs called as direct weighted graphs. Okay, weighted graphs can come in two flavors again. It is undirected weighted graph, it is directed weighted graph. Undirected weighted graph and directed weighted graph. Here the numbers are not arbitrarily chosen. Okay, these numbers are never arbitrary. They represent some realistic situation. It may be the distance between A and B, two cities. It may be cost 2 crores. It may be 2 crores while constructing a road from here till here. It may be discharge. It may be discharge that is being carried by the pipe connecting two valves A and B, or it may be once again cost consumed. It may be effort in pumping water from A to B. Okay, it is something like this. Okay, the values are it is number of days that has been elapsed before A is finished and B is started as a some kind of an activity in a CPM chart and effort chart. It may be number of days, it may be effort, it may be monetary aspect, it may be distance, it may be anything. Anyway, the weights should be given weightage. The weights mounted on the graph should be given weightage. It will be written by the side of by the side of an edge. Okay, the graphs are represented computationally by what is called as adjacency matrix. Adjacency matrix is a Boolean matrix, as you can see over here. Okay, the size of an adjacency matrix will be an order n, where n is number of nodes present in the graph. And if A, see here we can explain. A to A is not connected, there is no loop, therefore it is 0. A to B is connected, therefore it is 1. A to C is also connected through this particular thing, but we will never do that. Okay, here connectionality means direct connectionality. Okay, A is directly connected to B is directly connected to D, A is directly connected to D. Okay, direct connectionalities is written over here in the form of 1 or 0. Therefore, entire graph is represented by an adjacency matrix. Okay, the various properties of graph can be explained by just looking at the adjacency matrix. Okay, by just looking at the adjacency matrix. If the diagonal elements are 1, if all the diagonal elements are 1, then there are self loops at every node. There is this is a city, let us say. There is a road which leaves from the south end of the bus stand, and it traverses the whole city like a ring road, and once again it comes and joins the same bus stand. This is a practical implication of this loop, self loops. Okay, it can be there. Okay, it can be there. So whether to have a loop in a graph or not to have depends upon the problem. Okay, the problem that you are framing into a graph. Okay, A to B is connected. Okay, if all entries in this adjacency matrix happens to be 1, then it is a completely connected graph, fully connected graph. Okay, and if there are more ones and less zeros, it is a well connected graph. And if there are more zeros and less ones, connectionality is very less, it is called as a sparse graph or poorly connected graph. Okay, whenever you have more number of zeros in an adjacency matrix. And here is another representation in this form of adjacency matrix. Here nodes are written and here edges are written. Okay, whether the edges go in a positive direction or negative direction, it is indicated. Okay, E3 goes from D to A. Okay, here it is A to D. Okay, A to E3. Therefore, it is -1. Okay, this is also another representation, but this representation is a little confusing. Therefore, mostly we never use this kind of a representation, and this is the representation, whether it is a directed graph or undirected graph. Okay, if it is a sparse graph, let us say, if it is a sparse graph, then it is not worthwhile to represent the sparse graph in the form of an adjacency matrix, because it is more the representation of an adjacency matrix calls for double loops, nested loop. A nested loop, it calls for a nested loop. Therefore, if there are n nodes, the computer or the iterative construct has to bother at least for n square times. Okay, if some of the entries are 0, then the best preferred method is representing the graph in the form of an adjacency matrix or adjacency list or multilist. Okay, this multilist is devoted for a graph which is sparse in nature with many connectionalities missing. So in order to construct a multilist, what we need to do is we have to have an array of size n, where n is number of nodes, and header pointers should be stored in every cell. That means we have an array of pointers, each and every pointer devoted to each and every node. For example, V1 is connected to V2 and V1 is also connected to V3, and 2 represents V2 and 3 represents V3. Therefore, V1 is connected to V2 and V3. And we should never write, customarily we should never write 3 first here and 2 next over here, because this representation or this connectionality or this linking should happen in alphabetical order of the name. Okay, for example, V2 is connected to V1, direct connectionality to V1, V4 and V5. Therefore, V2 is a pointer over here, named pointer, header pointer, and it is connected to 1, V1, V4 and V5. So therefore, if the array is a sparse array, so the adjacency list will provide some kind of a linear kind of a program, a linear kind of an algorithm. Okay, there is no need to have 2 double for loops over here, and it can be simply represented in a very compact way. Okay, very compact way. And this is a weighted graph, and weighted graph is represented for the connectionality. It should have adjacency matrix, and to represent the weights, it should have the weight matrix. Okay, usually weighted graphs will be represented by both by adjacency matrix in order to depict the connectionality, and in order to depict the weights carried by the edges, we need to have weight matrix also side by side, right. The graph could be acyclic or graph could be cyclic. So here it is acyclic. You start from anywhere, go to anywhere. You will never face cycles. You will never fall into a loop. But here, if you go to B, you can go to C, come to E, come to D again, come to B again. Okay. In water flow problems, in transportation network problems, where loops are desirable or loops will come automatically. This is the graph. This is the way it is modeled. And whenever we are planning for a scheduling through graphs, then we should not have any loops. We should not have any loops over here. Okay, a cyclic graph is used to represent some kind of a scheduling of tasks, scheduling of events, say CPM and PERT. Okay, right. Acyclic graphs are of immense use because they are the best tools to develop scheduling of events like CPM, critical path method, and program evaluation and review technique that you would have studied in operation research. Okay, they are the event planning exercises. Okay, cyclic graphs appear in computer networks, transportation networks, etc. Okay, there is it's a pointer to understand. Okay, both cyclic graphs as well as acyclic graphs will find their application. Okay, while transforming a problem that we face in our mundane life in the form of a graph. Number of edges possible in an undirected graph with number of vertices given by V and no loops is related by some kind of a non-equality. Okay, number of edges in an undirected graph without any loops should be greater than or equal to 0, lesser than or equal to this particular expression. Okay, it is very important to remember this because this will decide for a given graph the lower bound and the upper bound of a graph which is undirected and which doesn't contain any loops. Okay, trees. Okay, trees have found wide application in algorithmic circles and in programming circles also. They come very handy in storing keys in a tree fashion. Okay, in a comparison to natural trees, these trees as a data structure are uprooted. Roots comes first and leaves comes at the bottom. Okay, it's a connected acyclic graph. That means from any node to any node there exists one and only one path. Okay, and between any two nodes selected at random there exists a path. This is the beauty of a tree. Okay, therefore a tree is also called as a graph. All trees are graphs and all graphs need not be trees because graphs will involve sometimes loops. Okay, a graph can easily be converted into a tree by removing certain edges or by removing certain vertices. Okay, and a tree can be converted into a typical graph by doing some kind of a connectionality somewhere over here. Okay, so it is possible to convert a graph into a tree and tree into a graph. Okay, a graph without cycles not necessarily connected is a forest. A graph without cycles not necessarily connected is a forest. You can have a tree over here, one more tree over here which is a disjoint from this, then two trees form a forest. Okay, the number of edges in a tree is related to number of vertices. It is always number of vertices minus 1. Okay, and there are binary trees and binary search trees. Binary trees and binary search trees. Binary trees, every parental node can have at most 2 children. Okay, every parent node can have at most 2 children. And binary search tree is an orderly arrangement of nodes. Okay, this is used for binary sorting. Okay, binary search also this is used. Okay, if you select any node at random, the left subtree will have all the elements lesser than this node, and the right subtree will have all the elements more than this particular node. And this definition can be recursively applied while defining binary search tree. Okay, when you traverse this binary search tree in an in order fashion, okay, see, it's like this: 1 3, the left subtree, the node, and the right subtree. You cannot enter into the right subtree because right node. Okay, 1 3 4 6 7 8 10 13 14. I repeat: 1 3 4 6 7 8 10 13 14. Okay, it generates the nodes arranged in ascending order, rather nodal values arranged in ascending order. So binary search tree is of immense help in algorithmic circles. Okay, we will come to know various applications of binary search tree and binary trees whenever we take up that discussion. Height of a binary tree. Height of a binary tree is related by this expression. Okay, height of a binary tree should be greater than or equal to floor of log n or lesser than or equal to n minus 1. Okay, so in this example, the number of nodes are, n is number of nodes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, so h is this, actually h should be 3. Height. Okay, height involves 3 paths, 1 2 3, or from here till here. It's not a vertical height. We should not be confused by defining the vertical height of a tree's height. No, it's not that way. Okay, the longest path up to the leaf from the node, from the root, is called the height of the tree. So for example, here number of nodes are 9. Okay, floor of log 9. Log 9 is 3 point something, 3.12, let us say. Since there is a floor, it will give you 3, because floor of a real number is the greatest integer less than this real number. I repeat, floor of a real number, so here it is 9. A floor of a real number, here it is 3 point something, because log 2 of 9, log 9 to base 2 is 3 point something. Therefore floor of 3 point something is the greatest integer which is less than 3 point something. Therefore it should be 3. So h is greater than or equal to 3. It is equal to 3 over here in this particular example, and should be less than n minus 1. It should be less than 8. Okay, a tree is rooted tree is represented something like this. Okay, this is the root. The left pointer is connected to the left pointer of B, and B is connected to D is connected to E. A is not connected to D, A is not connected to E. You should notice this here. Okay, and again, if B is the node, C is connected. Okay, the left pointer is connecting C, and C is connecting its own siblings. B is connecting its siblings, B is connected to A, C is connected to B, and C is connected to its siblings. It goes like this. Therefore, a rooted tree is always, a binary tree is always represented by first child, next sibling representation. First child, next sibling representation. It is some kind of a helical fashion. See, it goes like this. Connectionality goes like this, the way in which I am moving. Right. Sets and dictionaries forms the last kind of data structures that we should explain. Set, as you know, is an ordered collection of distinct elements like 2 3 5 7, which is always explained by means of a rule based explanation. It is a set of all elements x such that x is a prime number and x is less than 10. Okay, this same set can be represented as a bit vector 2 0 1, okay, or 3 1 0 1, like this 5 for this 5 and for this 7, like that. Okay, a set can always be represented as a through bits. Okay, then it becomes a bit vector. Okay, now sequence, if you want to have same kind of elements, okay, where, and you want to store this in an ordered fashion, then it will become a sequence, and sequence is represented by round braces, and here you can see 2 2 3 4 5 5. It's an ordered collection of items with possible repetitions. Okay, sequences. If you add or subtract it, then it will become series, sequences and series. Okay, anyway, we are not discussing anything about series, right? It's also, a sequence is also called as a multiset or a bag, because multiple sets can be constructed out of a sequence. you can construct at least so many sets from here: 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6 sets, 2, 3, okay, one set, 3, 4, another set, 4, 5, another set, 5, 2, another set. Okay, therefore it is called as a bag, it is called as a multi-set. Many sets consisting of unique elements can be doled out from a multi-set. Okay, and dictionary is not a conventional dictionary that we have heard about. Dictionary is a set of operations that is done on a tree, that is done on any data structure as a matter of fact. Okay, these operations are collectively, that is searching, deleting and inserting, okay, searching for an element, deleting an element and inserting an element forms compact way, in a compact form. These operations are collectively called as dictionary operations. Okay, so with this we will come to a close, and we will just move on to the next chapter, that is efficiency analysis of algorithms, and until then, bye.